today's episode, we're going to be covering the topic of child abuse. Child abuse can be defined in many ways. Different forms of the crime may seem less harmful than the next. No matter what the case, child abuse will always be categorized as an inhumane crime towards vulnerable developing children. Our first guest on today's show is a girl by the name of Allie Knowles. Allie, could you come on stage, please?
Really nice to meet you.
This is Dr. McBride.
Hello.
Is it since you were a young child up until recently?
Yeah. It started when I was around 4 or 5, and just my mom left because she didn't really know how to react to the situation, and he started to beat me and my brothers.
That sounds terrible. Allie, how did this progress into such a physical harm?
I don't know how it started to become a weekly thing, but you know, at first it was just once a month, and so my mom would just kind of ignore it, and then as it continued on, became almost every week, where he would come home completely drunk, and me and my brothers would have to hide in the closet.
And Allie, we have a doctor here today. This is Dr. McBride.
Hello, Allison.
She understands what you're going through. She's been with patients similar to your case. And what do you have to say today?
Just pretty much that it's obviously very unfortunate what you've gone through, and clearly it looks like you've progressed immensely. Do you feel that as you're getting older it's harder for you to have trust issues and everything with people that you meet?
Yeah, I definitely have closed myself off to new people. It takes a lot to kind of get to know me.
Right. That's a big factor in child abuse and neglect, because clearly who you're supposed to have the strongest bond with, your parents, you clearly don't, because you've been abused all your life, since you were 4. Do you feel that it is your parents to blame for all of this?
I definitely do. I used to blame myself a lot when I was little, and blame me and my brothers.
Because you were just in denial about everything that was
and
happening.
thinking maybe we were doing something wrong and that we deserved it because we didn't really know much different. But now that I'm older and I'm looking back on the situation, I realize that they have a lot of issues and it's not my fault.
Right.
So
that's the #1 thing for children who are abused and neglected, is building relationships, because you cannot trust anybody because you've just been...
Now, Allie, I understand that most children who have been abused as children develop psychological disorders as adults. Do you believe you're suffering from any psychological disorders?
Well, I've been tested a lot by doctors, you know, because they need to step by step see how I'm developing, and so far I'm coming out pretty clean on that end. Okay.
I understand that 2 years ago you say you hit rock bottom.
I did.
When you couldn't handle the neglect and abuse anymore.
Yeah.
And so, if I'm not mistaken, you called child help, and they set you on a very good path.
Yeah. You know, it finally all came down on me, and I turned a lot to drugs, I turned a lot to alcohol, because I'd seen my parents do that. So I thought, you know, obviously that's not a good idea, because I see how they treated me.
Now, Allie, you've talked about how you've been abused as a child. Do you believe you've been neglected?
Definitely. You know, my mom either wasn't home or wasn't paying attention to us or was high, and then my dad was, you know, working construction, and then...
Did you suffer with ADD in the classroom and a lot of, like, not hygiene problems, but like a lot of like dental issues and like health problems?
I mean, people could definitely tell that I wasn't getting attention that I needed. I couldn't really focus in the classroom because I was just always focused in on being abused.
Right. Did anyone ever confront you and ask what was going on at home? Or
a couple teachers would every once in a while, but I would always make something up because I didn't want to draw attention to myself any more than I was getting from my parents, and I was afraid that if I told anyone, I'd just get abused worse.
Okay.
And they would threaten me, telling me not to tell anyone, and that if I did, I would end up in a home even worse than the one I was in now. So.
Okay. Was it also denial that caused you not to tell anyone, or do you think it was just purely like you were scared that
There's
your parents were going to abuse
yeah.
you even worse?
There's definitely a mixture of denial because, I didn't want to believe. I saw my friends and their parents would come to their, show and tell, and mine would never show. So I was just kind of focusing on the fact that maybe it was just because they were busy and, that it wasn't because we had a bad relationship. It was just we had different dynamics than other families.
Right.
So I think denial was definitely a major part.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, were there financial problems growing up? Did you have financial problems?
I mean, there was never any luxuries for us. It was always just what we needed.
Right. Okay,
So.
because that's always usually a huge factor in households that causes abuse and neglect because parents are just so stressed and obviously
money.
they take out their anger and everything on
Oh yeah,
it.
money was definitely an issue. My dad would try to do as much as he could with the construction, and he would spend so much of the money on the alcohol.
Right.
And my
And
mom,
your mom
with the
with the
cocaine.
Right.
Now, Allie, I understand you were 18 years old, correct? You just celebrated your birthday, and it was 2 years ago that you hit rock bottom. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was really hard for me to reach out and get help because I was so focused in on, what was happening at home, and I didn't want to draw attention to it. I was still just trying to forget about it. But then finally I just couldn't take it anymore. I came home one day and I was done. I was sick of it. The night before was one of the worst nights I've ever had in my life. I had to watch my brothers be abused, which I had seen before, but not in the severity that I saw it the night before. And I just couldn't take it anymore. It's one thing when it's you, but when you're watching your people you love be abused, it's life-changing. So I got on the computer after my dad had passed out from alcohol and my mom was at work. So I went on the computer and I looked up ways to get help because
And you found child help.
I found child help and I called them, and the minute I was on the phone with them, I could tell that this is going to change my life for the good. They were so helpful, so kind, took me in, just helped me heal both inside and out. So.
If you are a child watching this program and you've been abused, or you feel like you're being neglected or abused in any way, you can always call Child Help, 1-800-CHILD-HELP. You, sir. Yes. Excuse me. Do you believe when you become a parent yourself, you will fall under the category of an abusive parent?
I really hope not.
Although you obviously don't want to be an abusive parent when you're older, statistics say that people who were abused when they were children, they do abuse their kids when they're older, and it's mainly just because in certain situations they don't know the right way to act. Okay, let's take one more question from the audience.
Good idea. When you were being abused, did you feel like anyone else was abusing you besides your parents? You obviously must have had a lack of confidence because of your abuse and neglect. So, were you abused by anyone else but your parents?
So I feel like you were bullied constantly.
Yeah, to answer that question, I definitely feel like I was abused by other people because I had constant ADD because my mind was somewhere else the entire time, and people would think I was strange and weird and make fun of me a lot. So I was abused by my classmates as well. So I had a pretty tough childhood.
Allie, Dr. McBride, thank you so much for being guests on our show. And again, if you feel like you've been the victim of child abuse or neglect, you can always call 1-800-CHILD-HELP.